and welcome to the PHLY Kickoff Show, live from Wicked Wolf on Chestnut Street, presented by Smooth Tea. Visit drinksmoothtea.com to purchase or locate a retailer near you. Bo Wulf, Jamie Lynch.
I didn't want to get off on the wrong foot here, Bo.
Welcome to the playoffs, Jamie. It's a different vibe.
Season of Eagles football. You have a bar in Center City and you don't invite me once? I mean, hashtag Wolf knows. They got Wolf fingers.
Wolf, no, it feels like they're stealing my whole thing here. I mean,
this is kind of your bar.
I do feel like this is an olive branch on their part to stop me from litigating against them for like gimmick infringement. But we're happy to be here, and we've got a lot to talk about as the Eagles, Jamie, amid all of the drama surrounding the team right now.
What drama? Something
and
going
all
on with
of the
this team?
speculation about what changes may be happening. We can put all of that to the side for the moment because they've got a playoff game to play. They've got Jalen Hurts dealing with an injured finger. They've got no A.J. Brown. They've got a chance to rub it in the Dallas Cowboys' faces after their embarrassing loss yesterday. And they have a chance to rewrite the narrative of their season and also of like the Nick Sirianni era, going back to the place where that first season ended in ugly fashion. Todd Bowles figuring out the Jalen Hurts weaknesses.
He can't read.
Right, exactly.
That whole clip.
Now all of a sudden you're back there with no A.J. Brown, with Devontae Smith. We will see how far they have come. We will see how much this team really wants to continue their season as, I believe, 2.5-point favorites as we prepare for kickoff.
Yeah, it's been fluctuating a little bit between 3 and 2.5 here prior to kickoff. Read into that whatever you will. You're right, there's a ton on the line tonight. Is it Jason Kelce, Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox's last game? Is Nick Sirianni coaching this team next year? How is the public's perception of Jalen Hurts shifted after this game? Because if he goes out and has a stinker tonight, you know, the enthusiasm's not going to be there at training camp next year like it was this year. You know, like that step back. There's a lot on the line tonight, and I think the guy that feels the pressure the most is Nick Sirianni.
I think that's fair.
I mean, a game or a playoff season when nobody expected it, a Super Bowl appearance, a playoff appearance in year 3, and the guy's on the hot seat.
It's crazy to think about.
It doesn't happen often.
And yet you and I have sat here after every game and we have talked about the sort of falling off the cliff that has happened with this team, 1-5 over the past 6 games. We thought they were sort of playing ahead of their record early in the season. Not to say that they were playing badly, but not quite a 10-1 level.
Sure.
And it seems like the team sort of believed that a little bit. And then coming off the last 2 games of the season, you had that blown lead against the Arizona Cardinals.
Oof.
Jonathan Gannon coming in and sticking it to Nick Sirianni. They blow that game when they had the NFC East in their own control. They could have been the 2 seed. And then last week, have a chance to sort of bounce back from that, and you show up with a total stinker against the New York Giants. And now the question is, like, what is this team going to look like? The offense had been playing pretty well until last week. The defense has been arguably the worst in the league over the past sort of month.
Yeah, it's a really tough one because, you know, Jalen Hurts, he's walking in today and he's got the 2 wrapped fingers. So, like, last week's Giants game, it's hard to get over that first half of ineptitude because they tried. For one half of football.
They tried to try.
Yeah, and they had nothing.
Yeah.
And there's offensive problems, clearly. You know, the Tim McManus report today that Jalen and Brian Johnson's maybe aren't seeing things the same way.
And we will ask Zach Berman about that. We have him coming shortly, live
and then
from
A.J. Brown's
Raymond James
removed
Stadium.
from the game. What the hell's going on there? I know his knees. And then you have a whole nother world where the defense doesn't look like a competent NFL defense on any measure. And there's so many things going wrong. It's so hard to analyze this team because they could come out tonight and blow the Buccaneers' doors off, and I wouldn't be surprised. They could look like they don't belong on an NFL field.
Very possible.
And I wouldn't be surprised. It's the weirdest day of a playoff game in Eagles history that I can remember. Because even 2 years ago when they were going down to Tampa in Hurts' second year, nobody really expected them to win. You kind of knew what you were walking into. With this team, you've seen a little bit of the great, a little bit of the good, and a lot of the bad recently. You still don't know what you're getting.
And on defense, the good news is they get Darius Slay back for this game. He is playing for the first time in 4 or 5 weeks. The bad news, they're without Reed Blankenship in this game, who is inactive.
That's brutal.
And that means that Avonte Maddox is slated to start at safety next to Kevin Byard, which means that Bradley Roby is going to play most of the time in the nickel. We'll see how that goes. Avonte Maddox has flashed at safety in the past, but he has also not looked great the last 2 weeks when he returned from injured reserve.
Yeah, I guess one of the good piece of news is from Zach a little bit ago that Cunningham and Morrow are going to be the linebackers.
Is that good news?
I mean, what are your other options? I mean, it's better than Shaq Leonard, right?
I don't know. Doesn't seem like good news to me.
The only thing I know about this team, Bo, is it makes me want to drink.
Smooth tea, boys, that's smooth. And we've got a nice little romantic setup here, the two of us. But let's make it a threesome. Let's bring in Zach Berman. Zach Berman live from Raymond James Stadium. Zach, you look great. We're happy to have you. We hope you've had some Bananas Foster. Sort of set the scene for us from what you're seeing there in Tampa Bay. How's the weather, all that stuff?
Well, it's great to see you guys. There's nowhere I'd rather be than right here in the stadium. The second of that would be right there with you guys, because it looks like a cool setup. To answer your question, Banana Foster is at halftime, so obviously, so definitely have not had that yet. Been eager for this hit to talk to you guys because I watched pregame warm-ups, like you said. Reed Blankenship not playing. You'll see Avonte Maddox out there at safety. It was Bradley Roby in the slot for the Eagles. So that would be your, and then obviously your starting corners, Slay and Bradbury, and then. I'm curious to see how the wide receiver situation looks. I saw Quez Watkins on the outside during pregame warm-ups. I'm expecting to see quite a bit of Julio Jones, who I should mention in this game last year when the Bucs played the Cowboys on the Monday night playoff game. Julio, I think, had 7 catches and a touchdown, right? So the stage is not too big for Julio Jones. But I would say the weather has been fine. It's been a gray sky, but it hasn't been pouring rain. It was, frankly, the last time we were here, week 3, the conditions were much worse. It hasn't been too hot, it hasn't been cold. No, it's in the 60s today. So I don't think the temperature is going to come into play for this game like it has for a few of these other postseason games so far.
Zach, I have to say that as much as we are in a different setting, the playoffs are a different atmosphere, it is comforting to know that no matter what, you will go to bat for Julio Jones until the day he dies. That is very comforting. We're happy to hear that.
Wait. Let's get it on the record here, Zach. Do you think we have a Julio game coming?
Well, I think we've already seen the 2-touchdown Julio Jones game. But, yeah, I do think you're going to see more Julio Jones. And asking kind of behind the scenes this week, one thing that kept coming up when I asked about the wide receivers is, man, Julio looks really good in practice. So we'll see if that translates to the game. It's the first time in Julio Jones' career that he's playing against a former team. He was with Tampa Bay, of course, last year, but he was inactive for both games against the Falcons. So Julio Jones knows this defense well, he knows these corners well. Now, I do think the Eagles are going to run the ball quite a bit, and I think the game plan will probably be relying upon the offensive line to win at the line of scrimmage. But when they do pass, it's going to be Devontae, it's going to be Dallas Goedert, it's going to be Swift out of the backfield, and then I think Julio Jones is the next option there.
All right, let's talk about this a little bit because we have the whole offseason to talk about how much of an indictment it is of the roster building that we're talking about Julio Jones having to be a major factor in a playoff game. But what you're talking about, Zach, Jalen Hurts is playing this game with the wrapped fingers. He's looks like he's going to be throwing with the glove on. As you talked about, in the Week 3 matchup, the Eagles ran the ball to their running backs alone 30 times. It feels like they have not fully embraced the Jalen Hurts as a running option in the offense over sort of the second half of the season. It is my opinion that the best way for them to win this game is Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert in the passing game, and other than that, let it be DeAndre Swift and let Jalen Hurts run the ball and be that part of the offense and force the Bucs defense to react to that. What do you expect game plan-wise?
I like that point, Bo, and that is, I'm in full agreement with you there. I would definitely utilize Jalen Hurts' legs, especially because throwing the ball and handling the ball, I don't want to say it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be an issue, but he's certainly compromised, right? He's playing with a finger that is banged up, that he's going to be wearing a glove tonight for the first time that I've seen him play, right? So I would imagine that him running the ball won't be affected, number one, and they can keep pounding it to Slay. So, I'm sorry, to Swift. So between those two, I am expecting the Eagles to rely on the ground attack and really trust the offensive line. But you are right. This is a game where we can see more Jalen Hurts' legs than we have in recent weeks, where even when he got past that knee injury, or at least it publicly, visibly looked like he's past that knee injury, it didn't result in an uptick in rushing.
So Zach, we're talking about the offensive problems there, and Bo and I have kind of batted this around all year that the RPO, PRO, whatever it is with Jalen's legs, doesn't really seem there this year. Now today, Tim McManus has a report that Hurts and Brian Johnson, like he expected kind of this evolvement of the offense. Are the offensive issues much bigger than maybe we all are aware of, and they've done a pretty good job of masquerading as a efficient offense? Because it seems to me like behind the scenes from Tim's report a little bit that a lot of people aren't on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's the conversation we've been having, throughout the season, right? Is what's going on here? How is this offense growing from 2022 to 2023? There's a lot of discussion about Brian Johnson. Frankly, I think you have to look more at Nick Sirianni. This is Nick Sirianni's offense that Brian Johnson's calling. Whether it's Johnson being inhibited or kind of being held back by some of Sirianni's desires, or if there's a disconnect with Hurts, I do think that the offense hasn't taken that step. I mean, even though the Eagles will gladly tell you, or Nick Sirianni will gladly tell you, they're top 10 offense in a lot of these metrics that they care about, it's also true that the offense is not as good as it was last year. It's not as efficient as it was last year. It's not as explosive as it was last year. And they'll point to things like turnovers as the big issue. But it goes beyond turnovers, and whether it's where the ball is thrown, not utilizing the middle of the field, relying too much on their receivers winning one-on-ones, in particular on the outside, and scheming them open. Different components like that. It is going to take an offseason to dissect it, but I think where it comes from is that they have. They have a tight end who statistically hasn't shown this year, but is they view as a top 10 tight end in this league, right? It's not enough to say you're top 10. It needs to be closer to the top 5, and not just in terms of rankings, but in terms of how efficient you are, how explosive you are. You can't regress in that area from 2022 to 2023. So, I think these are all major issues that the Eagles are going to need to find a good way to fix this offseason, because the talent's not going anywhere, right? I mean, I'm expecting a lot of the same players back next year. So it's maximizing some of the best players in the primes of their career.
Zach, let's flip sides of the ball and talk about the defense now. Just with this game specifically, we have talked about they get Darius Slay back. Reed Blankenship is out. Avonte Maddox will be at safety. Bradley Roby coming in to play the nickel full time. This Bucs offense, they want to run the ball. They're not very good at running the ball, but they can certainly throw it down the field to Mike Evans and to Chris Godwin. Godwin, a guy that they move around and can play with in the middle of the field. What are your expectations from this Matt Patricia defense as they try to rebound from being like a complete eyesore over the past month?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, because it's kind of like the talk radio callers offense in Philadelphia without the same type of talent, right? I mean, they'll run the ball, they'll use play action, they'll use a lot of motion, right? I mean, they're using a lot of these things that Eagles fans are calling for. They just don't have the same level of talent, in a lot of areas. They struggled scoring. You saw last week, right? They scored 3 field goals against Carolina. They obviously Baker Mayfield's dealing with something. He's going to play tonight, but he has the rib in the ankle. So what am I expecting? I think that where the Eagles where the Eagles were so good in that Week 3 game was on the line of scrimmage, and in particular the interior. That was Jalen Carter's best game with the Eagles. He looked like the best player on the field that night. Jordan Davis played decently that night. Fletcher Cox played well that night, right? So I think it starts there. And then you obviously want to see your edge rushers play to their name, play to the back of the card, if you will, right? With Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. But there is going to be a lot of focus in terms of how the Eagles are going to handle that secondary. And what I want to see is, do they simplify it, right? Do they just say, all right, we're going to trust our talent here. We're going to rely upon them. There's been so much mixing and matching with personnel, with coverages. And sometimes when things are bad, you just go out and you roll it out and you play. And you let these guys play to the, you simplify it. I know Shield said on our show this week, almost like Doug Peterson talked about with the Thursday games. So I would imagine, and based on what I've heard in the locker room this week, that's something that the Eagles do, is that they kind of go back to the basics and they try to simplify it a little more, just so you don't see the types of miscommunications that you've seen in recent weeks.
So, Zach, question about the makeup of this team in the locker room that you cover so well. Definitely check out Zach's writing on allphly.com. Nick Sirianni has a lot on the line this week. It's possibly Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and Jason Kelce's last time putting on the Eagles pads. Do you get the feeling from being there this week, Darius Slay's returning, do you get the sense that there's like a rallying cry that this team is finally going to answer? Because, all the words we've heard over the last 5-6 weeks, they haven't done anything about it, clearly. Now it's the playoffs. Chad Ochocinco and others think, Deshaun Jackson, that they're playing possum. Do you believe this team has in them that DNA to answer a rallying cry?
So it's a good question because I don't think there is a rallying cry this week. And what I mean by that is I think the players are out of explanations, and they're just like, we have to do it. And, we heard Deniz say on the show the other day, give the fans a reason to care. Devontae Smith said at his locker this week, I have no pep talk for you guys, right? You're just going to see it on Monday. Brandon Graham, I asked him, this is the same type of stuff you told me before the Arizona game. Why is this week going to be different? And he's like, you're right. The reason it will be different is it's win or go home, right? There is no next week anymore. There is no tomorrow. So they have no choice. So he's going to believe it. So I do think this team, I do think this game can show a lot about this team. But where I hesitate is why didn't the Giants game last week show a lot about this team? Why didn't the Arizona game show a lot about this team? Why didn't the Seattle game show a lot about this team? So I think we're a few exits past seeing what this team has. Now it's I heard Jordan Mailata say a few weeks ago they have a lot of pride, even though it doesn't look like it. Well, let's see it. I'm in the Professor Selman camp here. I love when they talk because that's my job, that's our job, and you want to get their perspective on things. But we're well past the point of explanations here. This is like, all right, can you translate it to a Monday night? And if they don't, it's going to be a very interesting few weeks at the Healthcare Conference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berman, with the insight from Tampa. Good luck covering the game. We will look forward to reading those tweets and talking to you after the game on the post-game show here on PHLY. Thank you, Zach.
Enjoy the scene. Thanks for having me.
All right, and thank you to Smooth Tea, made with Kiki vodka.
I might chug another one. That was like...
What flavor did you go for?
This is the iced tea and vodka.
Smart.
Very refreshing. My palate feels cleansed.
We've got, looks like this is the iced tea vodka. Oh, this is like the straight as well.
Yeah.
But it's a Kelly Green can.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, I asked Zach about the rallying cry, but I know it's beyond that. We've heard all the lip service you can hear. But, like, now it's fight or flight time. Like last week, I try to put myself in players' shoes sometimes. Not that I understand what it's like to be an NFL player, but, competing. And last week...
The shoes are a little bigger.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I'm a size 13.
You're a big dude. Yeah.
Okay. Last week, you can almost internally go, all right, it's the last game of the year. This doesn't really mean anything. We're just trying not to get hurt. So, like, I kind of understand last week, Seattle, Arizona, these other weeks, there hasn't been an excuse. Now, like, if these players care about the culture that Nick Sirianni has implemented, established, it appears there's good roots in that locker room. If they lose tonight, this is like the most embarrassing finish to an Eagles season ever.
Probably so.
If I don't see fight from the Eagles tonight on behalf of their coach, because they know their coach's job is on the line.
But I also don't think that it's just about the coach.
Well,
it's about them.
It's about
like
Jason
have a little
Kelce
pride.
And Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. I mean, 3 Eagles Hall of Famers that possibly are putting those pads on for the last time.
And for yourself, you put in all this work since the offseason, like every single day. You go to work, you put in the time. This is what it's all about.
If you don't see them coming out of a corner swinging, I'm going to be like quasi-devastated as a fan, because like all we ever want from our athletes in Philadelphia is that you show that you care as much as we care. And like Eagles fans are like whimpering in a corner right now. Like, just come out there tonight and fucking fight and have a good fucking football game for once, for the first time in 2 months. Just show the fuck up. Like, that's all we're asking. Look like a competent fucking team.
Well, it's an interesting test.
I'm dropping F-bombs.
That's all right.
But
It's the smooth.
I'm starting to get up to game time here. And, like, it's just been, like, the worst week. This morning I woke up and I was like, is there even a playoff game tonight? Like, they've just killed our passion. Like, just come out fighting and get a win and go to Detroit next week. And who knows?
Where I sit right now is I have no faith in the defense. I do not expect the defense to show up. If they can get lucky, force a turnover, maybe get a couple sacks, that's great. I need to see something from the offense. I need to see something from Nick Sirianni's plan against the blitz.
Passion from Jalen Hurts.
After last week when they got totally pantsed by Wink Martindale, we know Todd Bowles is going to blitz. And I want to see, with no A.J. Brown, what can you come up with? What have you designed? What have you figured out? And what is Jalen Hurts going to do? As you said, with this finger, I'm curious to see how it all plays out. Before we go, you got to give me your best bets.
Yes.
It's the playoffs. This is when you step up.
I just want to see some passion out of Jalen Hurts. I don't want to sit him on. I don't want to see him on the bench. Like, fucking rally your guys. You know what I mean? You're paid $250 million. Rally the troops.
He is who he is, though.
I don't need that tonight.
When they were winning last year, you didn't need to see that passion,
no,
right?
I do now because shit's bad.
Okay.
All right, my best bets tonight, Bo. I'm going to go with 2 random ones just because Cade Otton sounds like a guy that's just going to kill the Eagles.
Sure.
His over-under is low, 26.5 yards. I'm going to take Tampa's tight end.
The Eagles are terrible in the middle of the field.
Terrible. Yeah. Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham. I'm going to go over 26.5 yards for him. And then I'm going to go with our co-worker.
Oh, baby.
Fletcher Cox in his last game as a Bird. Hopefully not. Hopefully there's one more. Over a quarter sack. So just give me a half sack.
Okay.
You get plus 130 with that. So
that's smart because he's no dummy about getting in on the half sack. If it's there for the
He'll jump on the pile if he has a chance. But like I feel like he's going to have a little extra juice tonight.
Well, he had the week off last week, so he should have fresh legs. That's a good bet.
Motivated by potentially last game.
Yeah, why not? I'm going Chris Godwin over 55.5 receiving yards. You put Bradley Roby in the middle there. I know Zach is all about prime time Bradley Roby, but I think that's a good matchup for the Bucs.
If I was GM of the Eagles, Chris Godwin would have been here.
There you go. And then I'm going over Jalen Hurts 40.5 rushing yards. I think in this game they should be leaning into what Jalen Hurts can bring to the table as a runner.
Do something different. That's different.
Right.
You know what I mean? The offense hasn't benefited.
Okay, let's see how your legs are working.
And then maybe in the second half, they respect the rushing. Like, if you do that in the first half, second half, it changes everything. Maybe they respect Hurts' running capability, and it changes the whole game. So I would love to see that.
All right, let's get to predictions, Jamie, because kickoff is minutes away. And, of course, we will be here after the game live from Wicked Wolf, once again presented by Smooth Tea, for unpacking everything that happens in this game. Until then, what are you expecting?
I've gone back and forth every single day this week on this game. I'm picking the Eagles to win with zero confidence in saying that. I know. I'm going to go Eagles 28. I just think Tampa Bay sucks. And if you lose to a Baker Mayfield with a bum ankle and bum ribs, and he's got Zins in his pocket in practice this week, which could actually, I could spin zone that as he's a little too cool, calm, and collected. That could be worrisome. But I'm going to go Eagles 28, Bucs 17.
Wow. Like a full, demonstrative
win. It's terrible. I hate
17 points for this defense. That's a lot of faith.
I know. know. I hate everything about what I just said.
But you got to believe.
If you can't beat the Tampa Bay Bucs right now, what the hell are we doing?
Well, unfortunately, I do not believe.
You're probably more justified to be in that game than I am in mine.
They're going to have to prove it because right now, just watching how they have played the last part of the season, the defense, I don't think there are fixes to what is wrong with the defense right now. And I don't know that they have the answers on offense either. And so I am sorry, but I'm picking the Bucs to win this game.
You don't have to apologize.
I think they're going to win this game 20, let's just call it 24-20.
Okay.
It's a bit of a slugfest.
Is it a come from behind Tampa win or they take it and run?
No, the Eagles, what happens is this Eagles team has been so soft in the face of adversity. I think they are front runners, and so I think they are maybe jumping out to a lead in this game, and the second that adversity hits, they just sort of falter. And the Bucs pull away at the end, and that is the end
you kind
of
of buy what
this
Chris
2023 season.
That it's good they're on the road.
Oh, I believe that, yeah.
I do too. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to believe. And I say these words and I half believe them. There's
Maybe
no reason to feel confident about the Eagles.
All right, well, everybody get your smooth teas. Get yourself set up to watch this game. And then remember to join us on the PHLY post-game show afterwards, live from Wicked Wolf, presented by Smooth Tea. For Jamie Lynch, for Zach Berman, for Julia behind the glass with no glass, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Listen to Jamie. I hope that everybody has a good time. You know what? I hope you have a smooth next 3 hours. And we'll talk to you in a little bit. Thanks for watching. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.